All right, guys, welcome back to Home Life. We are in session number three. Today we're going to be talking about his needs, her needs, how to build an affair-proof marriage, This was one of the first books my grandmother gave me on my wedding day. I married my wife, Barbara, and so my grandma comes to me and she hands me this book, and it was just titled His Needs, Her Needs, a very simple book. So I'm going to highlight some things that I learned out of this really neat book. But before I do, I want to talk to you a little bit about the difference between men and women. This might help you a lot in the arguments that you have with each other. So when you begin to understand, so if a man would understand a woman, and if a woman would understand a man, we could resolve so many of unnecessary arguments. So you see two pictures here. So in this top left corner, you see a man. Men are very systematic. They're very logical thinkers with a one-track mind. So men can effectively discuss one topic at a time. And so our minds are like a storage room. In each one of these boxes, it has its own topic. So what happens is a man goes into the storage room of his brain. He pulls out each box. You want to talk about the car? I pull out the box labeled car, take the top off, and we can talk all about the car to your heart's desire. Yep, each box. Now, if you change the subject and you want to talk about your in-laws, then I have to put my lid back on my car box, and then I put my box nicely back where it belongs, and then I pull out the in-laws. Now, there is one box that we have that women hate and do not believe that we actually have it, and yet we do. We have what's called a nothing box. So one of the interesting things is you're driving down the road and your wife says, "Hey, honey, what you thinking about?" And we say, "Nothing." And she doesn't believe me at all. How can you be thinking about nothing? I don't know, but I can think about nothing. Men have a nothing box. We can completely just unwind and literally do nothing and think about nothing. This is completely foreign to a woman because she's constantly thinking, constantly processing, all the time. Now, on the other side, so you see how the men work. On the other side of the spectrum, women are emotional thinkers, and everything is connected to an emotion. How it made them feel, the feeling behind the event, it all comes back. Women have a very unique, beautiful brain. It is a multitasking brain, and it has the capacity to discuss multiple topics at a single time. And at this point in our lesson today, you should begin to realize where these issues are really falling apart at. That you're going to oh, now I see where he's going, okay? So a woman is multitasking all the time. She can do multiple things at the same time. Men are single track, one thing, one topic at a time. A woman's mind is like this, a big ball of wire, and everything is connected and impossible to separate. So, I want to talk about the car. We're talking about the car, but the car reminds her oh yeah, we bought the car from my mom. So now we jump from the car to her mom. And then we're talking about her mom, and it makes her remember about this. Hey, you remember the trip that we did over there? And then all of a sudden I'm talking about the trip, and then we spent a whole bunch of money. Are we talking about money, or are we talking about the trip? Are we talking about the car, or are we talking about your mom? And so what happens is we get into this situation where men become very frustrated because the woman is going from one topic to the next, to the next, to the next, and we can't keep up. We get frustrated, throw our hands in the air, and that's where it all happens. So we don't want that to happen, but if you begin to understand that a man operates one track, one mind, Woman, she's a multitasker. So when you begin to understand each other, men, sometimes you might have to say, hey, hold on, honey, let me get this box put away. Let me get the other one. Be more patient. Women, you maybe want to slow down a little bit and not change subjects so often. So a little bit of a process there. So, all right, now, guys, the first thing that the book, His Needs, Her Needs, talks about is this, the love bank. Okay, the love bank. A deposit is a loving action that results with a positive reaction. So I do something love. I buy her some flowers. That's a deposit. I take her out on a date. That's a deposit. I send her a sweet little message from home. I leave a little note, and I make her a cup of coffee. These are all deposits. Withdrawals is an action that results in a negative reaction. So I call her a name. I forget our anniversary. All these are withdrawals. You know, you begin to do things. You become critical. You get argumentative. You forget things. You don't do things. These are all withdrawals. And so here's how it works. The love bank, if you're putting more in, you're putting more deposits than you're taking withdrawals, then guess what? You're doing fine. But when you start making more withdrawals than deposits, you one day become bankrupt. When we're making more withdrawals than deposits, it leads to bankruptcy. Our love is bankrupt. Our bank account, our love bank is bankrupt because you are taking more than you're giving. And that's one of the things that we absolutely must put away. So now, we're going to talk about 5 needs on each side, okay? So, first, we're going to talk about his needs, then we're going to look at her needs. So, these are 5 typical needs that we're going to talk about. And I'm wanting you to understand is that when we deal with each one of these needs, understanding that you may sit there and say, well, that's not my number one need. It may not be. This is a general for the general public. You may not be perfectly for each one of you. You may be at a different place in your life, and one of these is not as high on the scale as another one. But here we go. Number 1, a typical number 1 need of a man is sexual fulfillment. He can't do without this, and I put literally, all right? So men need, this is a need, a physical need, a scientific need, a biological need, needs sex. Needs to have a release. So when you're married, this is a part of that. So he needs a sexual release. Okay? That's number 1. Number 2, recreational playmate. It's all about the hobbies, okay? So here's the deal, is men are typical, every man that I know has some form of a hobby. Sometimes their career is also their hobby. But here's the deal is that every man has, I like hunting and fishing, so the outdoors. Someone else may like hiking. Somebody else may like frisbee golf. Somebody else is liking fishing. Somebody else likes golf. Somebody else likes big trucks. Whatever it is, men have this recreational, there's a child in every one of us men. And a part of that, as it works out, is that we want someone who endorses that, somebody who's behind that, somebody who supports that. If you like big trucks, you want your girl sitting next to you in your big truck. When I go hunting and I come back with my big buck in the back of the truck, I want my wife to be like, oh my goodness, I'm so proud of you. You're such a good hunter. We need that. We need the recreational playmate. Number 3, an attractive spouse. He wants her to be confident. And guys, don't get, one of the things that I don't want to get caught up in is sometimes like, oh wow, that seems very, very sexist. And here's the thing is that as a man, when you get married to someone, you're married to someone you're attracted to. Period. I've always been attracted to my wife. I'm attracted to her. She's attractive. But sometimes what happens is through time, sometimes a woman can lose confidence in herself. Maybe she had children and put on a little bit of weight, and now she's self-conscious about this. Well, the problem is that the weight doesn't bother the man. He's still attracted to her. He wants her to be confident. Because that goes back to number 1. And so what I'm wanting you to understand is that it is important that, hey, be confident of yourself, ladies. Be confident of yourself. But maybe dress up a little bit every once in a while, or put on some new perfume, or, try out a different dress. The point is that a man is attracted. This is a need of his. He wants to be attracted and drawn in to his lady. Number 4, domestic support. He needs a quiet and peaceful home. Again, this is not this is a book written by a Christian author. It's not necessarily a Christian book. It's just saying, hey, here's the statistics that we find about men and about women. He needs domestic support, meaning that when a man when he goes home, when we've worked all day and we come home, we want a quiet and peaceful house. We want to come home to peace. Not always just peace and quiet, but peace. Sometimes we come home and our wife is frustrated, and then here comes the nagging, and here comes the aggressive posturing, here comes the yelling, and it's like, well, I don't want to come home anymore. Now, that's not me personally, but what I'm saying is that can happen. Number 5, admiration. A desire for her to be proud of him. One of the highest things that every man needs is to be respected by his wife. It's what we want. Now, men, so here we go. We fought for your needs. Now we're going to talk about the lady's needs. Number 1, she needs affection. Outward expression of love without expectation. So many men like, well, I'm sweet to her, and I'm treating her with affection. But the only reason you're treating her with affection is because you want sex. That's not how that works. You're showing affection without expectation. I'm not being sweet. I'm not flirting because I expect sex. I'm flirting because I love my wife. And I'm being affectionate towards her. Not every time that you're affectionate is always going to result. So you're meeting her number 1 need does not automatically mean meeting your number 1 need. I need to understand as a man, my wife needs affection. And so I need to show her affection without expectation. Number 2, conversation. She needs him to talk to her. Now, here's part of the problem is that with typically a man uses about 7,000 words a day, while women use about 20,000. So by the time we get home, we've used most of our words. But here's the thing, men. Leave some room for conversating at home. Number 3, honesty and openness. She needs to completely trust him. She needs to completely trust him. No little white lies, no deception, no deceiving, no sneaking around. Open honesty. Be open and honest. Number 4, financial stability. She needs to not worry about the bills. Men, this is an area that you need to make sure that you are taking financial responsibility of the home. Now, she may be really good with managing the money. She may be paying the bills and writing the checks and doing the budget. You need to make sure that she's not worried, are we going to keep our house? Are we going to have enough food, money to get food to eat? Number 5, family commitment. She needs him to be a good father. Here's the deal. There's so many men so caught up in their careers that they leave their job and they bring their job home with them, and they're home, but they're not home. When you go home, be home. That's what she needs. She needs you to be committed to the family, to her and to the children, to the home, to making that what it needs to be. Now, we're going to go down a little bit quicker here. So men need that sexual release 2 to 4 times a week in order to reduce stress, relieve pain, improve heart health. Wow, that's all kinds of good things. Here's the deal. Ladies, if you want your men to live longer, right here, where you can reduce stress, relieve pain, improve heart health, blood pressure, all of it. That's great. The Bible says in 1 Corinthians, let me say this. The Bible says in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, it says, let each man have his own wife, and let each woman have her own husband. Verse 3, 1 Corinthians 7, 3, let the husband render to his wife the affection due to her. So there's the affection, right? And also the wife to the husband. The wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does. And likewise, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but the wife does. Do not deprive one another except with consent for a time. Mutual consent. And what it means is this, is that we're not depriving each other of sexual relations, but we are willing to we only deprive when we both agree. So what happens when we don't agree? So Barbara and I have a really good rule that we use. So she may not be in the mood, and I may be, or I might be in the mood, and she might not be. 24. We just say the word 24. Honey, I'm really tired tonight. 24. Before she makes a move, right? If I know that maybe she's been dropping some hints, maybe some of that, and so I'm like, okay, I think she's kind of in the mood, but I'm really exhausted, I'm tired, I'm sore, I'm wore out. Honey, 24. And then we know what that means. 24. It means that I am putting a pin in this activity right now, and within 24 hours, all right, we will do that. Number 2, this recreational playmate. Understanding that hobbies improves overall well-being, it reduces stress, reduces depression, promotes mental health, improves relationships. The recreation hobbies of a man are good. It's good for his mental health, and if it's good for his mental health, it's going to be good for everybody else's mental health. That does not mean that he gets to go on a shopping spree. What I am wanting you to understand is that there is good things about recreation. Now, can recreation become an idol, or can it be something where we're putting too much money into it, we're putting too much time into it? Absolutely. Balance in everything. But understanding that a recreation, like sometimes women do not understand, like, why does he need to have this hobby? It's for his own mental health. Remember that a man is not a woman and a woman is not a man. I don't understand a woman. I don't understand how she processes things. I don't understand how she feels or how she thinks, because she's a woman and I am a man. We are different in so many different ways. So here's the need of a man. Needs that hobby. But we also, men, got to keep that hobby within balance. An attractive spouse. We've already talked about that. I don't need to do any more of that than we already have. But just understanding that he's already attracted to you, girls. He's with you. He's attracted to you, drawn to you. And you have if you have that confidence in yourself, you don't have a problem to worry about. So domestic support needs a quiet and peaceful home. Home needs to be a place he looks forward to going to after work. Okay? The Bible says better to dwell in a corner of a house than shared with a contentious woman. It says a man would be better off in the corner of the roof on top of a house. Like, I'm not even in the house. I'm on top of the corner of the roof at the farthest point. It's better to be there than to share a house with a contentious woman. Understanding that this is a huge part of what the man needs. He needs to come home to a peaceful situation. So if you've had a bad day and he's on his way home, work that out before he walks in the door and you come barreling down and attacking. He needs to unwind. He needs to come home. He needs to relax. Not saying that you keep working and him put his boots up. What I'm saying is that he needs to be able to come home and not walk into chaos. Needs to be able to have peace, so that when he comes home, he has a little bit of peace. He's able to assess. He's then able to be committed. And we're going to get to his part of being a committed family member. And the last one is admiration. We already talked about this, how important. You know, it makes me think a man wants to be respected and honored by his wife. Understand that I could preach a great sermon, and everybody's like, oh, wow, that was such a good message. That was such a good message. When my wife says, wow, I'm so proud of my husband, when my wife says, wow, you did such a good job, that means more than anyone else's words. And that's why you wives need to understand how much a husband needs to be admired by you. On the other side of that spectrum, men, you need to understand how important it is that you live a life worthy to be admired. Now, wives, women, her needs. Okay, I've already talked about this, but just going through it again. Affection, that outward expression, right? She needs to know that you love her, not just her body. So lower the walls. So the thing is that you need, it can't just be about sex and physicality. She needs to know that you love her. I've already said that, men use about 7,000, while women, so men, you need to work on saving your words so that when you get home, you can be affectionate, and not only affectionate, loving expression without expectation, but you're also on purpose saving your words for her. Number 3, honesty and openness. She needs you to be she needs to be able to trust you. This is a level of, listen to this, a level of intimacy directly correlates with the level of trust. If she can't trust you, then you do not have a very deep level of intimacy. You can't have intimacy without trust. The two work hand in hand. Financial stability. So one of the things that I put in here, does she want to be a homemaker or does she want a career? See, the man biblically is called to provide. Now, for the first half of our marriage, Barbara wanted to be home with the kids. Well, when the kids all went to full-time school, and she was at home alone at that point, a lot of that changed. So up to that point, I was, basically my job was to make sure she didn't worry about money. And now at this point in our life, she's like, hey, I want to go to school. I want to become a nurse, and I want to do this. And so it was my job to support her in that. And so I want her to decide what she wants. She wanted to be a homemaker. Then she wanted to have a nursing career. And so the thing is, though, is that whether she's a homemaker making no money, or she's has a career and she's making money, she doesn't have to worry about the money. That's my job. She doesn't have to worry about losing the house. She doesn't have to worry if the car's going to get taken. She doesn't have to worry if we have the money. We always have the money. She doesn't have to worry about that because that's my job. My job is to make sure that I'm providing. So she needs from me. So if I'm wanting her to meet my needs, then I need to make sure that I'm meeting her needs. She doesn't need to worry about what I'm doing with money. She needs to know that she can trust me. And the fifth one there is a family commitment. She needs him to be a good father. The man is not just a provider, but also a spiritual leader of the family. He should teach and be the primary disciplinarian for the children. So here's the thing: is that when a mom says, "Hey, I'm going to stay home with the children," and then she's like, "Man, I'm tired of being the bad guy," and then you come home and you're the good guy. Here's the reality. Fathers, you are the primary disciplinary for the child. So if my children show my wife any disrespect, they get disciplined pretty harshly by me, because I want them to understand is that they better show my wife, their mother, the highest level of respect, or they're going to have a major problem with me. Not only do I need to be that disciplinary, but I also need to be a spiritual leader for the family. I am called by God to lead the family. The Bible also says that a man should stay with a wife if she's an unbeliever, because he acts as a spiritual covering. Well, here's what this is also saying, is that I as a leader should be the spiritual covering for my family. It's not an accident, my friends, when the statistics say that if a man gives his life to Jesus and is sold out for God, he has a 90% chance of changing the entire family. If a wife, and she's the only one who becomes a believer of God, she has a 30% chance to affect the family. A child, no one else believes in the family, but a child becomes a believer, sold out for Jesus. They have 15% chance to reach their mom and their dad. So God called men to be leaders, so be a leader spiritually, and you be the accountability. That's what she needs from you. When you as the man, and I will speak to the men, because you're the leader sets the tone. He sets the example. So as we look at marriages, men, you need to be setting the tone and setting the example. So here's the deal. I would then put on you that is your responsibility to start meeting her needs. After she sees that it's real and you're not faking or you're not just trying to get into her pants, but it is true and it is real and it's sincere, my bet is that she will then be glad to meet your needs. Meet her needs first without expectation. Just keep meeting her needs. Why? Because you should. A leader sets the tone. He sets the example. Starts with you men. Starts with you men. Now, ladies, if you're married to a stubborn man and he's not following any of this and he's not listening, then you set the example. You may have to rise up and be a leader for a season. And my prayer is that it will completely switch when it needs to. So guys, that's the lesson for today. God bless you. And then next week, tune in and we'll hit financial freedom. So God bless you guys. We'll see you next week.